Well, I said we would get more details about that meeting, what happened before the meeting, and what happened after the cameras had left the room from that particular meltdown moment. And what we've got now is that all of Trump's officials reportedly are absolutely infuriated at Zelensky that they wanted to put on this wonderful piece of political theater where Trump gets the opportunity to look tough, which plays well to his base, but does nothing, absolutely nothing for anyone else. Has left allies in shock to a point where even Japan is like, we don't even we're not even in this race, but yeah, we're considering alternative security agreements. There is so much stuff that the consequences of this have done, and it is how not to do diplomacy. Like 101, this is how you do not do diplomacy. And Trump and Vance and this ambush that took place was disastrous. Absolutely disastrous. This has pretty much made America, for like the next 3 years and how many months it may be, that they are just a completely unreliable partner. That if you sign a deal or you've got something signed already, that this president could literally tear it up at a moment's notice. Justin Trudeau is appearing at the security conference that is happening today as well, deepening now probably military and definitely economic ties between Canada and the rest of Europe, because if these tariffs go in, then Canada wants to sell its goods and its stuff to somewhere else. And as Canadian Ollie pointed out in our little call we did just not too long ago, once those materials get gone, they're going to Europe. America can't, or like a new president can't just suddenly come in and just restart the Canadian switch, because all those materials will be flowing into Europe. And I will say this now, the EU-Canadian deal that has been very, very much stuck in a quagmire for the past 10 years, I would not be too surprised if you started seeing that pick up pace very, very quickly, or you might even see them start to do sectorial deals. I think this is where we should start to do sectorial deals with Canada as well. I've talked about getting and paying for that infrastructure to be done. As someone pointed out in one of the comments, we have refining capabilities up in Scotland. Pay for that infrastructure to be built on the East Coast. Get that raw, that raw crude, that raw stuff. Get it into Scotland. Get it processed. Then it can be sold either here in the UK or into the rest of Europe, and that can help massively with a transition to green energy. Now, we need new sources of oil and gas because we should not be buying it from Russia at all. Quite frankly, the best two sources immediately, you've got a pipeline that should be built from Norway over to the UK, but securing that as well from Canada should be a number one priority right now. I hope that happens. That should happen, quite frankly. Should absolutely be discussed. And then, as a lot of people have said, we should put rejoining the single market customs union on the table. Even if we just rejoin the customs union, or we do customs union and single market, would be a massive boost to our economy, because we are going to need a lot of strategic materials that are going to be in Europe, and getting that stuff across eases a lot of trade. It bolsters all those defense deals that we want to sign now with Europe, very, very much so. Also, in the past couple of hours as well, we've had news that UK, France, and Ukraine are going to work together on a peace deal that then UK and France are then going to present to America. So we'll see what happens, but that is what should happen. Any peace deal, Ukraine should be involved. But that is not what has happened. It has been the absolute cutting out of Ukraine from this. So we're going to go into some of this stuff that's happened, how angry apparently Trump officials are at Zelenskyy. And also, I'm really, really glad, by the way, to see in America protests breaking out in favor of Ukraine. That is such a good thing to see in America. Such a good thing to see. Even JD Vance, when he went on this ski trip, had to go into hiding because there were so many protests there calling him out. Like, I am really glad we saw those protests and that happened, because that sort of it reaffirms my faith in, you know, in the resistance and in American sort of democracy, that there are people willing to sort of stand up to that and say no to that. Of course, you know, Trump still has supporters. They think it was all fantastic, but the reality is it really wasn't. It really wasn't, because they live in a fancy land where Donald Trump can do no wrong. And they just don't understand what Trump has done. But anyway, before we do get on to anything else, please do remember, click on the like, click on the share button. Down below, there's links to my Patreon page, the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there's the Pony Club down below as well. So let's crack on then into this. So those inside the Trump White House, officials have now blamed the Ukrainian president for the meltdown in the Oval Office on Friday. Why, again, why then are you still blaming Zelenskyy? He was not responsible for that meltdown. The meltdown was caused by Trump and by Vance tag teaming him for nothing more than political theater. And yet you still think you can blame Zelenskyy for that. Everyone in the entire world has seen this. Even people in America, I'm really glad, have seen, a lot of people in America have seen through that. Very much so. And of course, they've now expressed frustration that he pushed for security guarantees, even though the US had made it very clear they want to negotiate that later. And according to people familiar with the matter, again, why is Ukraine going to negotiate that later? They have been very, very clear throughout this war for the past 3 years, especially. They want security guarantees. First and foremost on their list, they want security guarantees. If Trump had said this mineral deal comes with security guarantees, Zelenskyy would have signed it on the spot. But no. And what worries them is that negotiation about that later. What does that say? Are you going to, you know, say, oh, yeah, we'll give you security guarantees, and then go, nah, maybe not? That's what the Ukrainians do not want to see. They want cast iron guarantees on security. And I'm really glad we are, like I say, we'll have to see what comes from the from this new plan by, you know, Ukraine, France, and the UK in this. But we'll see what that happens. Like I say, it's still very early days. Probably won't be presented anytime soon. But it is really good to see that that is happening. And of course, big point, the Ukrainians are included in that. So officials had told their Ukrainian counterparts in advance of this meeting that Trump wanted to sign an economic partnership this week at a ministerial level, as aides worked on the details about security guarantees. Then why not present that first? Because, as we said before, that is the first thing they want. If Trump had come out and said, I will give you security guarantees right here, right now, bam, 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 Zelenskyy would have signed that economic deal. Guaranteed. But no, you wanted to make political theater of this. Trump saw the mineral deals as now the first phase of a broader economic partnership and had told aides that it showed the US was effectively making a commitment on security guarantees, because the agreement deal would mean that the US now had vested interest in Ukraine's economic prosperity. Once again, showing Donald Trump is a transactional political animal. He won't give you anything unless he gets something in return. Again, that is not how politics, and especially in this case, not how it should be done. Anyway, officials had believed that all this had been communicated to Ukraine and was the advice that senators gave to Zelenskyy on Friday morning to praise Trump and not litigate the issue of wanting stronger security guarantees to his face. But again, that's not what happened. To Trump's aides, Zelenskyy did not heed that advice when he expressed skepticism at J.D. Vance's view of making peace with Russia and, in their view, lecturing the vice president on the history of Russian aggression towards Ukraine that had started back in 2014 with the annexation of Crimea. Well, Zelenskyy felt he had to do that, and you can understand why he had to do that, because it generally looked like both Trump and Vance had no idea about the history. That Ukraine had numerous times made peace, and Russia had broken those promises every single time. That's why that question came from the press poll as well. What will you do if Russia breaks this promise? And then Trump's response was, oh, well, what if a bomb falls on your head? What response is that to a very serious question? Anyway, this, of course, set off a downward spiral in the Oval Office as Vance then took issue with being questioned about his description of diplomacy and clapped back at Zelenskyy, saying, I'm trying to talk about the kind of diplomacy that is going to end the destruction of your country. Vance then cut into Zelenskyy with opprobrium, I don't say that, that would have been now objectively very harsh for the adversary, much less now a potential ally. He even appeared to interpret Zelensky's remarks to him as now insults to the US. So every moment of this meltdown, Zelenskyy had nothing to do with it. This was entirely Trump and Vance. It was all on them. But the fury with which Vance then castigated Zelenskyy from being ungrateful appears to have been the moment when Vance and his team personally now views about the Ukraine conflict came to the fore. On Thursday, when the prospect of completing the minerals deal was considered more of a probability, Trump had even downplayed his comment calling Zelenskyy a dictator last week, saying, did I say that? I can't believe I said that. Next question, Trump told reporters, trying to just say, I didn't say that at all. It's on tape, you fool. It's on tape of you saying that. Anyway, that brief moment of levity then masked the reality that Trump had now workshopped the dictator post on Truth Social with Vance even before it was sent out last week, according to two people briefed on the matter. I told you we would hear more about this stuff, what's going on behind the scenes. I still think there's more to come. I can guarantee you, I think there's going to be more to come on this. It might be a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months, maybe it'll be a couple of years. Maybe this will be, in whatever book that comes out about the Trump administration, in the next 5 years' time. I don't know, but I think there is a lot more to this than is being said. I think there is a lot more being said than this. So back to this. Vance had settled on the insult on the basis that Zelenskyy had suspended elections. And of course, the two people said, apparently ignoring the fact that Ukraine's constitution decrees elections cannot be held during a period of martial law, like the one Zelenskyy had declared when Russia launched its full-scale invasion in 2022. Anyway, without, of course, the other US allies, such as the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and the French President Emmanuel Macron, exclusively praised Trump, of course, in the Oval Office this week, Zelenskyy took a far different approach and perhaps even unknowingly careened headfirst into Vance's own personal skepticism of him. Trump officials, of course, said privately on Saturday that Trump still wants to sign the minerals deal, but An immediate reset appeared unlikely, with Trump then scheduled to attend a fundraising dinner for a MAGA Inc. Super Political Action Committee in Palm Beach. Zelensky's departure from the US now to the UK. And like I say, probably a lot of stuff as well happening today as well. Like I say, that deal potentially, like I say, the UK, France, and Ukraine are going to work on a peace deal, and then UK and France are then going to present it to the US. We'll see what happens. We don't know what will be in that deal, but hey, the big positive is Ukraine's involved in that. Not like what's going on at the moment. Anyway, there had, of course, been one attempt by Ukraine to save the deal after that meeting that blew up when Zelensky's aides suggested that Trump meet with Zelensky in one-on-one to try and calm the tensions. But the Trump officials declined that offer, and according to two people who were familiar with the matter. So they had given this opportunity. Just have a one-on-one meeting, calm the tensions, talk it out. No, Trump refused. Trump's view immediately, of course, after the meeting was that it was, of course, unproductive to engage in further talks with him. Zelensky said he was now unwilling to sign a peace agreement with Russia. Again, Zelensky has reiterated this all the time, even in that meeting. Yeah, we want peace. We are the biggest ones who want peace, but Russia does not want to come to a table or presents insane demands onto Ukraine. So in the end, of course, Trump's national security advisor Mike Waltz and the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio informed the members of the Ukrainian delegation who were waiting in the Roosevelt Room that they needed to leave. Minutes later, Zelensky stepped into a black SUV and drove off the White House grounds. And bear in mind, there's a lot of Republicans. A lot of Republicans are calling on Mike Waltz and Marco Rubio to resign. That this is their time. That this goes against everything that they have ever said, that they've ever done, publicly, privately, and yet they are in this position. And that if they continue, it will make them look ridiculous. Their entire career, this will be a huge mark on their career if they do not resign. It would send an incredibly strong message to Trump. Of course, I don't think Trump would care. But if you saw, as I said and showed you, yesterday, Marco Rubio, oh boy, was he one sad boy. You could see him in an existential crisis. You could see him in a massive existential crisis, thinking, what on earth is going on here? However, Zelensky did go on to a Fox News interview, which I think he did absolutely fantastic in. Absolutely fantastic. If you want to go watch that, I would highly recommend it. It's probably the only time I would ever recommend going to watch Fox News, because that entire Zelensky interview was really, really good. Appearing on Fox News later that evening, Zelensky referred to Ronald Reagan's dictum that peace is more than just the absence of war, and suggested that because Putin had broken dozens of ceasefire agreements already, more work was needed to reach a just and lasting peace, which is what Zelensky was trying to say. But Vance and Trump just reiterated the fact and thought to have go on a massive meltdown. Anyway, Trump then appeared to be very unimpressed when he, of course, boarded Marine One en route to Palm Beach, telling reporters that Zelensky needed to say publicly that he wanted to make peace and stop saying negative things about Putin. Why is he going to not stop saying negative things about Putin? And he's reiterated so many times he wants to make peace right now. This is it. You can see it right here happening live. UK and France to work with Ukraine on peace plan to be presented to the US. This idea that Zelensky doesn't want peace is ridiculous. What Zelensky wants is what he has said countless times. They want a just and lasting peace. They do not want to do a peace that then means in like, a couple of years, oh, Russia's back and fighting this war. One of the big things that Russia keeps on saying is that before these peace talks even place, they should allow for Russian forces to go and occupy Zaporizhia and what's it? I can't remember what the city's name is. Down south, I can't remember what the city's name is now. But if you allow them to occupy that territory, and you allow them to dig in and get that and rearm and repair, then that will give them huge bridge heads into invading the rest of the country. And that is what Russia is demanding and insisting that Ukraine give up that territory just to start these talks. Oh yeah, just give us more of your territory that we can then claim. Anyway, yeah, no doubt. As I keep on saying, I think we'll hear more about this. I think we will get I don't think we'll get probably the full story for a couple of years yet, but we will get probably dribs and drabs, certainly. But it will be a couple of years before we get the full story. But as always, let me know what you think down below as well. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.